whether this invasion, this term invasion, was inflammatory or not. I believe we can speak to Ann Widdecombe now. Thank you so much for joining us. Firstly, this question of invasion, the language of invasion, was that the right thing to say?
Well, it was a metaphor. I mean, she was talking about being overwhelmed by sheer force of people coming here from elsewhere. And it was a metaphor. You might say, I've got a family invasion this weekend. You're not being rude about your family. You're just using a metaphor. But what really strikes me about that is Robert Jenrick openly contradicting the Home Secretary and saying it's not a word he would have used. Now, when will they get over this? He should have his knuckles very severely rapped by the Chief Whip and be told, that's it. You know, you don't get another chance. You don't contradict your boss in public. What is the matter with them that they can't get basic party discipline? What is the matter?
It's interesting that this sort of double act of Braverman and Jenrick seems to have been deliberately concocted by the new Prime Minister to sort of perhaps balance each other out. Robert Jenrick is known to be someone perhaps on the more liberal wing of the Conservative Party, Suella Braverman certainly on the more conservative wing. Perhaps this sort of double act two-team is precisely what the Prime Minister wanted to do in terms of bringing that balance to the Home Office.
That's fine if what we're talking about is working out policy. That's absolutely fine. I'm all for having different voices in a department because that's where you get much better discussion. And I say that from solid experience. It's always as well to have at least one dissenting voice there who will put another point of view. That's not quite what I'm pointing out. I'm pointing out that this guy has publicly contradicted or criticised his boss for the use of a word. Now, if he doesn't want to use that word, that's absolutely fine. But what he shouldn't do is say so. Just not use it, mate. But don't talk about how you're not going to use it. What's the matter with them?
Now, I heard Robert Jenrick this morning, and I think, to be fair to him, he seemed to be walking on a bit of a tightrope. To one extent, he was trying to not criticise his boss. He was saying it was showing the strength of feeling, but then, of course, he said he had not used that word himself. Perhaps, in your view, you would have wanted him to lean in more and get behind this more combative, perhaps, language in order to take on this issue head on.
I don't even think he needed to defend the language. I think he could have said, you know, as he did, say she was trying to express, you know, the sheer force, but then full stop, not go on to say how he wouldn't have used it. That's where the trouble lies. And they've got into this habit, the Conservative Parliamentary Party. They just contradict each other. Now, it doesn't matter on the backbenches, matters in government. And I think, you know, and Rishi Sunak needs to get a grip on this as well as the Chief Whip. They need to all sing from the same hymn sheet. And if somebody says something, I mean, I ran into this problem as a minister frequently. Either I'd said something or somebody else had said something, and we didn't agree, and we just found a form of words which did not give the appearance of a contradiction. And, you know, you, if you're a minister, you take that in with your mother's milk. It's called collective responsibility, Mr. Jenrick.
Interesting stuff there. There, of course, was another big subject that dominated the Home Secretary's statement in the Commons last night. And, of course, that is her handling of documents, her sending of 6 separate emails to a private email, Gmail address, and indeed missending them to at least one individual who was not meant to receive that sensitive information. In your view, did the Home Secretary explain herself well enough?
Yes, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you know, have you never hit a wrong button? I've certainly hit a wrong button before now. You know, it's something very easy to do. She explained it. She paid the penalty for it under the previous administration by resigning. You know, she's apologised for it. She doesn't have to go any further. This has now just become a game that is being played by the opposition and by some parts of the press and media, and she just needs to withstand that. Unfortunately, I think she is well able to withstand it, and on this occasion, I think she's got a PM that will stand behind her. Well, he must do, because he made the appointment. He'll look very silly if he doesn't.
That's a really fascinating point to end on there, how resolute the new Prime Minister is. In your view, you are saying that you think that Rishi Sunak will stick by his Home Secretary. He is willing to weather the political heat that is coming from much of the media and the opposition on this issue.
Well, if he doesn't, he's going to lose minister after minister, because there's always something that you can trip somebody up on. And all you have to do is to keep on and on and on about it. And if he sends a signal that he gives in to that sort of pressure, then that sort of pressure will come thick and fast. He needs to stand up to it now in order to prevent it in the future. I'm sorry, what we haven't been discussing is the actual problem that we've got down there. Across on the shores. We haven't been discussing that. And I'm rather sorry about that, because I think it is most unfair to blame Suella when she's only been there 5 minutes. You know, this problem has been building up for decades, and I underline decades.
Absolutely.